welcome to CirclemakersTV. My name is Matthew Williams, as if you didn't know. And if you didn't know, then you shouldn't be here. Go back to bed and no chocolate cocoa for you. So, well, if you are here for the right reasons, and I'm sure some of you aren't, then welcome. We've got an interesting show and an interesting guest. Well, we do try. I'm sure we're going to fail pretty soon, but we have got some interesting guests lined up if they'll just come. But right, let's go across and see who's on the chair. Oh, it's you again. You were on the first show, weren't you? Yeah, that's right. Yes, of course. So we're recycling guests now, aren't we? You told me you had something that you wanted to tell everybody about the crop circles, because initially you said you hadn't made any, but can you sort of tell us? Have you got any, information? Yeah. Show us what you. Oh, what the? Oh, look, just fuck off. Just get out. I'm not having this bullshit. Get out. Get out of this place. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh well. Gone. That's probably not a bad thing. And here we have the circle making guest. Oh, hey, can I actually train the camera? Here he comes. Da 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 da. Hello. You can sit on that side if you want. Sit on that side, and then it'll look a bit more natural. There you go. You can have your little friends behind you to keep you company. Yes, and I can see your face now. That's better. It would have been a bit of a hard angle otherwise. So let's fade your microphone up. Oops. Right, we better put a mute on that, I think. I can hear all sorts of sounds now. So can we hear you? Hello.
Hi. I
can hear you. Now, would you like to introduce yourself?
No, thank you, Matt. I'll entrust that to you.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, I get to do something for a change. Okay. this is Poppy, and we're just going to call you Poppy, but you have got an interest in crop circles, and there's no sound. Hang on. There's no sound. Let me just see. Somebody said there's no sound. According to this, I'm broadcasting, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see that I'm getting a registration. Somebody's got sound now. They're saying it's very quiet. Okay, I'll try and do something about that. Okay, I don't want to push it too much because if it clips, this is what I'm going to say to you first. We'll come back to Poppy in a second. But if it clips, i.e., it goes and makes nasty noises like that, go crazy in the chat window and go, it's crackling, it's crackling, it's crackling, because when it goes too loud, that's what happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a chat with Poppy. And anyway, so there we go. You keep us right. Somebody's offered to help us out there. That's Dorothy. And it's just the guest mics that clip. Okay, well, we'll try that. We'll do a little test because I want to get this right. So can you count to 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, how's that, everybody? Hopefully that's not making too much noise now, so... Okay. No sound. Crop Dolly says no sound, but some people have got sound, but Crop Dolly doesn't have sound. Maybe what you need to do is just check the little volume slider on the left-hand side of the screen and see whether or not you get sound then, because sometimes it's turned down for some people, so that might help you. Okay, right, well, anyway, back to Poppy on the chair. Oh, well, we're already on Poppy on the chair. And, okay, that's a good way. Look, we've wasted at least 5 minutes. It's brilliant, isn't it? Poppy's worried that she's not going to have anything to say, and I said, don't worry, you can say nothing, and the whole 2 hours will go really quickly, and everyone will think that you've just had an amazing time. It's really good. I've got nothing to say about crop circles at all, but I seem to manage. We've done 4 hours, and it just went like that. Right, some people have got problems. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have to... We can't really go into technical mode, so if people in channel can help you out, then please do. But right, okay, so crop circles with Poppy. How did you become involved with crop circles?
Where am I looking, Matt?
You're looking at
I'm
me.
looking at you. No matter what you're doing, I'm looking at you. Okay.
You've got the choice. If you want to, you can sit back. You can lean back. Is that good?
As I relax,
it might help you relax if you want to sit back in the chair and just.
I'm looking eager and.
Yeah, you look pretty eager. That's good. It all works.
Okay.
There you go. First time on an internet television channel. Oh, you're probably going out to about 4 people, so don't worry.
Hi.
So crop circles.
The reason I got involved in crop circles was that I was a student in London and I had a partner who lived in Wiltshire who was involved in looking at crop circles because the mania had hit. It was 1990 and he was, like everybody else in Wiltshire, kind of going off their nut, wondering what all this stuff was happening in their fields. And so as soon as I came to visit him at the weekend, he dragged me off to Newton St Low, which is near Bath, and made me go and look at this marvellous thing that he'd discovered along with all the other people that were in there. And it was a marvellous thing.
Excellent. So this friend of yours, was he just interested in crop circles? Or?
No. It later transpired that he was a friend of... Can I mention a name here or not?
Well, it's up to you if you're not going to get
into trouble. He was a friend of
trouble.
somebody called Paul who was apparently already making circles.
Right.
At the time.
Is this a known circle maker,
yes,
Paul? Yes.
It is. And
is it the Paul I'm thinking of?
It is the Paul you're thinking of.
Right, okay.
A fine Paul. And
yes. Yeah, I think you can say Paul because he's been interviewed on my
he
CircleMakers
was quite honest about
DVD.
Yeah, so I hadn't met Paul at that stage, but Lee, I'll mention Lee's name. Lee was a friend of Paul, and I think they were already, I think Lee was already going out with them and having a dabble, but he didn't tell me about it at the time. He just wanted to show me this miraculous thing, because I think he was still, pretty gobsmacked by the fact that they were getting big, and keys were growing out of them, and lines and claws, whatever they were called, and he was a bit flabbergasted by the complexity of this new thing. And he took me into this circle. It was about 7 o'clock on a summer's evening, and was convinced that he could see a small green man running about in the crop.
Don't see that every day.
And he kept saying, look, can't you see it? He was completely sober and straight and everything, and I couldn't see a thing and I couldn't feel a thing, and all I could, because I hadn't seen the aerial picture of the formation at the time, I didn't really know what I was looking at, because I was just walking through all these corridors of crop and thinking, okay. And it wasn't until I saw the aerial shot that I actually got my head around what it was and what was going on. And then from that point on, I was just taken into loads of them by Lee.
Right.
Sorry to mention his name if he doesn't want to be mentioned.
Okay. So Lee ended up being a circle maker. Sorry, I missed that bit. Did you say? Or is he just interested in...
Yeah, he was. I think he was, but that was something that he did with Paul and Paul's group. And I was told we did this one, we did that one, but at the time it didn't, to be honest, it was still quite new. It didn't mean that much to me. I just thought, oh yeah, okay. Nice one.
Okay. So you were dropped in at the deep end then with people that knew a little bit more about it than they were saying.
Yeah, but it was interesting that though I don't know about Paul because I hadn't met him then, but although Lee was, like I say, he was obviously knew circle makers already. He knew them, but at the same time, he still had this kind of, well, you know, what is this? What is this? It's I think it was beyond what they were doing already, and they didn't know who'd made it, and so therefore something else had made it. And he was quite in awe of it.
Ah, right. So he at that particular time, then he was. He didn't know. He didn't
know completely, and he was seeing. Well, he was convincing himself he was seeing things running about in the crop that I couldn't see. And he immediately made me a pair of coat hanger dowsing rods and told me I had to go and dowse quickly, and I did.
Excellent.
There you go.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to dowsing then in a second, and.
I've sat back in the chair now. So
yeah, you can.
All is well.
Relax. Relax for a second. Commenting on Jesus and where's Muhammad? Okay. Well,
hello.
They want this apparently. Yeah. I don't know what they're on about, but they want YouTube video. They want this.
It's very nice.
Yeah. Okay.
So
if you hang on to that, and
it's got a very nice texture.
Then everything will be okay.
Okay.
Don't know quite why. Oh yes, it's Jesus and Muhammad, and with. Yeah, one of these is...
Oh, his eyes doing something really unpleasant.
Yeah, if you squeeze him, something bad will happen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry. We got Muhammad, which you're holding in your hands.
Hello.
And then we've got Jesus, who's the pink one. And then we've got Jesus' dad.
Jesus' dad?
Yeah, some sort of big sun thing that floats in the background, yeah. So you're in good company there.
It's quite sparkly.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Right, and with that little interlude, we should tell you a little bit about what you can and can't do with the show. What you can do is if you want to Skype into us, you can Skype the show. And if you're interested in doing that, I've got to remember to look at this camera because I'm looking at the screen. If you want to Skype into the show, the thing is down the bottom of the screen. You know, look at me doing this when it's actually on my screen over there. So, yes, it's down there. Get on Skype, install it on your machine, type in a thing of contact CirclemakersTV. And you can send us a text saying you want to come on, and we will then give you a ring. And we can take you voice, or we can take you with your webcam if you're that bold. So, and also if you want to log on to the website, our website is normally www.circlemakerstv.org. Okay, don't forget that there is a chat window in your live stream. So if you're watching this and you didn't realise, if you scroll the window down a little bit, there's people chatting away and they would like to speak to you, and they put their questions in the little chat box. So scroll down and take part. So right then, back to the action, and back to Poppy, who's now had a long enough time to have a deep breath, I think. So we bring you back into the fold. You're enjoying that, aren't you?
Mohammed is marvellous.
Mohammed, yes. He's really squishy. Yes. We will be the subject of a jihad for suggesting these things. Mohammed is all squishy. Yes. But, right.
Yes.
Okay, so you are not just somebody that went into a crop circle and had some weird experiences. You've also been somebody that's had some interesting experiences all through your life, and I believe that you've actually written some books about them. So you're known. You're known.
I'm known for. I'm known in some areas for. Sorry, Matt. I'm talking to Mohammed. You see.
Yes, Mohammed is very
compelling.
He will take you in, and you won't be able to escape. Yes, you better put him down.
I will talk to you.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Yes.
What was the question?
How many times a week? Sorry. I think the question was, you've written some books. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your background in spiritualism and other things? How would you describe yourself with your background in that respect?
Very potted. I was brought up in a very working class, very ordinary house in Birkenhead near Liverpool.
I'm glad you told me it was Liverpool, because I didn't know where Birkenhead was.
Birkenhead's that bit that sticks out between Wales and Liverpool, and it's very rubbish. And sorry, that's why I'm not there.
You can't go back there anymore.
No, I haven't tried. And I had a very ordinary background, except for the fact that I saw and heard things that weren't there from basically from when I was able to speak, apparently. And I was given no encouragement with that. In fact, I was told it was wrong and bad, and nobody would help me with it until I was about 14 years old, when somebody presented me with a Ouija board, and things went horribly wrong from that point. Anyway, my life became a quest to understand the things that I had naturally experienced as a child, right through my teens, up until when I first walked into a crop circle. It's been all through my life. So I decided, when I finally understood the things that had been happening to me, I decided that I wanted to share it with people that had been on their own with these experiences, and try and make them less frightening, and try and give them the power to help them deal with them themselves without them having to join a group, cult, religion, just pure, one-to-one empowered spirituality with, with the land, the spirits, whatever. That's
Excellent.
what I tried to do.
So you've written about this in your books, and I think we've got some graphics of that, so we'll bring them up in a second.
Okay.
We have an excellent technician behind me that's working very well there, and I can see the steam coming off. So yes, we have a picture of a book. Let me see if we can bring this up.
God, that's clever.
Yes, Spirit Walking by Poppy, and it's got your full name on there. Yes, it's got your full name on there. So, yes, we didn't think about that one. Right, so then we can go on to the next picture. We'll maybe zoom this one in a bit. There we are. Stories of the Wild Spirit. And next one. And Craft of the Wild Witch. Have we got another one after that? We might do. Ah, yes, Green Spirituality, but this is written under a different name. Rosa Romani. Was it a secret that you were writing under a different name? It's out now, isn't it?
No, I'm fine with that.
Yes. It's a different character that you write under, so different theme.
It was also because the American publishers didn't want me to write any English books. So I just...
Oh my God. It was strange people.
But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't buy it because it didn't have the name on it. And it's a nice book, I like that book.
Yes, okay. Well, it all looks very interesting. I haven't had a chance to read any of these, so but maybe I'll take a look at some of these. And then we've got this book, the Greening, and it's Rise of the Fairy Tide. Is that right?
Yeah, that's actually a sort of a fiction
book. Okay.
A sort of teaching fiction. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it looks like you've been busy there with all of that. So. You'll obviously tell us a little bit more about
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, here we go. I might as well play the joke then, right? Okay.
Where's the shade?
I say, when I invited my guest on tonight, I thought I was getting the Jesus and Mary chain, because when I first met her, she had the dark glasses on, and she had hair like that. And I thought, oh, we're getting a Jesus Mary chain on you. And well, she said, no, I'm not. I'm an author. I'm not.
I did
Mr.
not.
McCulloch. Is it Ian McCulloch?
Ian McCulloch. I don't know what his name is.
Oh, right.
Some bloke.
Sorry about that.
It's fun.
So, right, okay. Well, you'll do, Poppy. We'll yes, you can tell us about your books and the crop circles. That will do. And no music tonight. No music.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're interested in how crop circles raise people's consciousness.
Am I, Matt?
I believe so, because I wrote some notes down when we were chatting earlier on. So I know everything about you now. Honestly, I've got it all written down.
I have to be very careful with this. I'd like to return to that question, if I may. Is that
okay?
politic?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. What about you said that we need to accept. We need to accept that people are making crop circles. That's a very important message that you have, because you think that it's been kind of misrepresented over the years, and
absolutely.
A lot of people are not telling it the way it is. So could you go into that?
We could go into that for quite a while, couldn't we?
Sure.
I don't want to use the word need, because that sounds like I'm jumping on the sort of Glickman stabbing a cake with a crucifix type of you must do this, you must believe. Sorry, was I allowed to say that?
You were
I think I just did.
You're absolutely allowed to say that. I think I've talked about Mr. Glickman's antics in the YouTube videos.
I'm certainly not going to fall into the other side of the camp and say you must believe that people make these, because that's just horrible. I just think that it would be helpful, very, very helpful indeed. Have we gone off?
No, it's just something on the other screen over there.
Must not pay attention to screen.
No, just
okay.
Just talk to me. I've got to look around a lot when I'm here.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
I'll look at
you could look at the side of my head whilst I press buttons and try and listen.
All right. So I'm not. No, I'm not here.
It's a real show, folks.
I'm not here to think that we need. I think it would be very helpful if the truth were accepted, because then we could make an enormous leap forward and really raise consciousness by actually understanding human potential, and the human potential to make stunning and beautiful things that a lot of people will not accept and are made by humans.
Absolutely.
And then we can make an enormous true leap of consciousness that isn't based on needing it to be an external force, and have faith in our own human capacity to make miraculous, beautiful things, and to be connected with the spirit of everything ourselves, without having it to come through Muhammad, for instance.
Yes.
Although he's not much use at the moment.
Well, no, apart from being on the chair, but, yes, he's getting picked up every once in a while. He's a comforter for tonight. Muhammad is your comforter. So, right, weird experiences. We're going to come on to how you sort of have some extra information about crop circles in a bit. But you've had no weird experiences, I understand, in visiting crop circles, which is. Some people go in them and have strange experiences. I didn't when I started, but what's your take on that?
Well, I think like you, perhaps, maybe I'm overstepping the mark here. When I actually went into my first crop circles that first year, 1990, I believe it was, I was shocked, because I was used to a life of experiencing really quite powerful I don't like the word spiritual, but unexplained phenomena were part of my life, and I'd come across some quite bizarre and disturbing as well as beautiful things. First time I went into a crop circle, and every time I went into a crop circle, none of those things happened. I didn't feel a thing. I saw people who were apparently feeling lots of things, but I didn't. The only time that I have felt and experienced unusual and truly moving and baffling things have been when I've been out in the field at night.
Yes, you've actually been out and seen crop circles being made.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to keep the best to last, aren't we? We're going to eat this one out, and then we'll hit them with the magical punchline. Okay. Right. Well, I'm just going down through my notes here. So you've never really believed in aliens having anything, or any magical forces having anything to do with the crop circles. And being somebody who's psychically inclined,
Mm-hmm.
you'd imagine that you would pick up on something. You would have sort of sensed something, but you say you didn't.
Absolutely nothing. And I'm completely. I try. Well, no, I don't try. I have to be authentic with myself, otherwise there's no bloody point, is there really? So I couldn't kid myself that I was feeling something that I wasn't, when I felt so many things in other circumstances and know what a genuine phenomena or energy feels like, and there wasn't anything there, except for the fact that I was in a stunning landscape and was enjoying the energy of that landscape, but there wasn't anything paranormal going on in that little bit of corn. And that's been my experience since 1990 right through until the present day. I can't fabricate something that isn't genuine.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, it's your own personal experience, isn't it? I mean, just as a matter of interest then, I mean, how do you relate to people who say they do have those things? Do you think that it's just maybe you don't pick up on those things that are weird? Because I mean, I'm not saying you should, but do you think that other people may be picking up? They're on this sort of wavelength, and you're not on that wavelength. How does that work for you? What do you think about other people having healing experiences and things like that in crop circles? Are you do you think that they're making it up, or do you think that they're having genuine experiences?
I wouldn't even. I would definitely not say that is impossible, or they can't possibly be, or deny it in any shape or form. Whatever they are experiencing, it is relevant to them at that particular time. For whatever reason it's happening, it is there for their own growth and their own personal. It's so personal, isn't it? It's just so personal what's going on for people.
Yes.
And I'm not going to stand there and start pointing fingers and going into hysterical laughter if somebody is having a genuinely moving time in another area of a crop circle where I'm just happening to admire the lay of the corn or whatever. I'm there on a sort of autistic basis, and they're having a completely separate experience, and that is, if that's genuine to them and it's not something that they're manufacturing because they think they should, then it's absolutely valid, and I'm not there to trash that.
Sure, that's nice. Yeah. Okay, well, we might as well sort of get right into the nitty gritty of it, the crux of the biscuit, and say, well, are you able to tell us of any circles that you have been involved with? Please say yes. Please say yes. You don't have to, but are you able to?
What, as in naming locations and?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying you have to, but this is, from here there is no turning back.
Okay. I can
you can
categorically
hint
yes,
if you want.
I can categorically state that I have seen designs prior to their appearance in fields, therefore know that they come from a human hand, although I have not been party to their actual creation. I have seen the evidence of their construction on paper before they are in the field. I have also been out at night when a team has gone into the field and not been in the field with them, but obviously known that they were out there, and I've gone and sat somewhere else and while they were working. And I've also been party to actually making some, but unfortunately the ones that I have been party to making were with a very small, very, very small group of people, and haven't actually been very good. Because we didn't have, well, partly because I was part of the team and I'm absolutely useless and couldn't even keep my balance very well and stuff. So, but I have seen enough.
You've seen some stuff. Okay, we'll
I've
come back to it in
yes.
a second. I mean, maybe we should explain then. You weren't able to sort of partake because you got a walking stick, so you were involved in an accident, so you're not
physically. Yeah, that wasn't a particularly good idea, but I did try. I mean, I have tried to hold centre in circles, and we've created ovals.
Good point.
and
created ovals.
we have created some nice ovals.
Were they intentional ovals or
No.
unintentional ovals?
They were very unintentional ovals, and I'd like to talk about that again later, if I may.
They weren't intended to be.
No, they weren't, and
No.
the other people involved were not best pleased with the fact that it was an oval. And as I tried, I don't know how this is going to translate to people that aren't familiar with Douglas Hurd's hair, but we, one was created that looked like, or actually, if you think of a nice Mr. Whippy ice cream. It was meant to be a really nice circular bubble type formation, but it turned, because it had gone so horribly wrong because of my involvement, it turned into a sort of...
Well, maybe that's what it. Maybe Douglas's hair needed better exposure.
However, there was a group of people who are known for rating crop art on the internet who, until they found out who was responsible for its creation, did say it was rather lovely.
All right.
Which was nice. Which was nice to have that validation of Douglas's hair.
Right. Okay. But then they found out that it was made by people, and then. Oh right. Okay. And then they changed.
Unknown.
Yes.
And then the opinion was changed drastically, and that happened on several occasions. Yes.
I wouldn't say I've never seen that happen before myself. No, that never. No,
that does not happen.
What are you talking about?
I'm fibbing over here.
They don't. The bloody crop circle researchers don't change their mind. My God, it's all
exceptional circumstances.
It's set in stone. You can't change your mind. Goodness. Anyway, I think I hear where you're coming from on that one. So you've kind of suggested, if somebody's got an imagination, which one that might have been. I mean, when are we kind of talking about with these circles? You could be a bit more sort of specific on dates.
2000.
Exact dates
3,
and times.
4,
Would you like to sign this bit of paper?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000. Yeah. The 2000s.
In the earlier part of that century. What's the decade?
Decade. So you're talking 1990 to 2000, or
2005.
Right. Oh, we've got. Oh, yes.
And
right.
then.
I know how to get the information. How to see.
You do, don't you?
Just keep on and on. Just keep on and on and on and on and on and on. Yes.
I'm going to touch Mohammed now.
Oh yeah, you got Mohammed on. Right. I'm not going to mess with you now. Okay. Well, I don't want to press you too hard on which designs you've done. You're going to have to want to say these things. Maybe when maybe a bit later on you'll feel like you want to, but I don't want to push. It's not the point of this show to make people say things they don't want to say. I mean, I can't be responsible for what people say and what trouble it gets them into.
No, quite so.
I can't.
He isn't.
So that's why I have a drink, so I can say I was drunk when it all happened, and then everything I say was under the influence of alcohol. So, right. If we come back to, you mentioned Lee knowing. I
shouldn't have done that.
But you did.
I know.
You shouldn't have done it. Oh my God. All right then. Well, erase that. That will get edited out. Honestly, it's not live broadcast. We can go in and edit time.
I'm sorry.
We can edit time and take it out. No, you'll be okay, I'm sure. I mean, people.
Actually, it was an acronym. His name was actually Eel.
Eel. Okay, there we go. Well, he was friends with Paul, and by Paul you mean Paul Randalls.
I do indeed.
We can say that because Paul is well known. He went in the video Circlemakers, and he was part of UBI, which is United Believers of Intelligence. And
I used to do their makeup.
Makeup?
Well, Bart liked a bit of makeup, didn't he?
I have no idea.
Sorry.
So they used to wear makeup before they went out and made a circle?
Well, it didn't matter, just in general, just to get into the mood.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I like that. I need a circle makeup artist. I can see. Yeah. Right.
It was the Kiss, the rock band Kiss.
I do indeed. Yes.
He liked that look at the time. He liked that look.
So you telling me he made circles looking like that?
Presumably. Yeah.
Well, rock out with your stomper board out. Yeah, that's all I can say. Okay, well, Paul was known as a circle maker. Unfortunately, Paul committed suicide, which is very sad. And He's one of a number of people that have committed suicide involved with either making crop circles or researching crop circles, which is very sad. And I don't want anybody else to go doing that by finding out the truth about crop circles, because the truth about crop circles is actually weird enough to be excited by it, not to be disappointed. And I think most of the people that we know are quite excited by it. So, yes. Okay, you mentioned to me earlier on that you don't think the land is being consulted. What did you mean by that?
Okay. In my work, my previous work, I was very involved with the spirit of the land. I thought spirituality had become so human-centric. This is one of my words. It's self-explanatory, but I just thought everything was becoming anthropomorphized and moving away from the fact that we're just little beings on a huge organism living with organisms seen and unseen. And I wanted to get out there and work with the land, which I thought was being sadly neglected, and to the guardians of the land and the spirits of the land, who aren't affiliated to any religion, creed, cult, or anything else. They're just themselves out there. And anyway, and I've always found it odd that land artists, crop artists, aren't. Perhaps I'm talking from a perspective where I've been very fortunate that I've been able to communicate with what I consider to be, some people call them genius loci, the spirits of place or whatever. And I've always been incredibly respectful, and I've got a story I'd like to tell later about what happens when you're not incredibly respectful of a particularly strong spirit of place who does not want a piece of crop art performed in their field.
Okay, that sounds very interesting.
That's a kind of side issue, but I've always thought it would be much to move the whole crop art. What can we call it? I don't like the word phenomena. To move the whole. Help me out, Matt.
To move the whole subject on, so that people that make circles are looking at it from a bigger perspective, rather than it just being art. If they connect with that, I'm not saying that people who make circles do connect with that. No. Some do, some don't. And
somebody has already expressed to me that they're glad that they would be glad to talk to people that do connect with it, so that they can work more closely with that energy and incorporate it into what they're doing, so that when they are planning their work, and obviously a crop circle has to be planned meticulously because it's a feat of engineering as well as everything else. When you see a design, you know how much goes into especially with a huge team or whatever. It's an incredible feat of engineering, which I have ultimate respect for. But just sometimes I feel like that has been designed on paper in a house away from the land, and then it gets put into the land almost like a stamp. Boof.
Sure.
And okay, it gets taken into consideration. Well, there's Silbury Hill perhaps, or there's a ley line, there's an ancient site, there's a hill fort, but it's not been taken into consideration about the actual energy of place and whether it would interact with the design to start with and make it flow. And it could be infinitely more powerful, because it'll be a communication between the person and people and place, and that will be so much more powerful. And could actually bring it to a different level, a totally different level.
Yeah, I've said to people in the past that the landscape itself was not being represented in the crop locations. It's kind of like the photography taken by some people. Didn't really show where the crop circle was. It was just like, we're so fascinated and obsessed with the crop circle itself that we just take hundreds of photos of the crop circle and nothing of the background. Yeah. So people were losing the magic of the landscape and losing the magic of the atmosphere of where these things were.
Yeah.
They might write about, there's a connection between this hill fort and that hill fort, but why not actually show it? Why not actually show the line that goes from these places to other places? So that's on one level. I've also said to people maybe they need to connect with their sort of higher spirits or whatever's out there, you know, and that's why we started doing the little invocations that we did.
Which is wonderful.
You know, to try and get people to sort of take it to a level where they're sort of connecting with the people who might be visiting these things, having strange experiences or getting wowed by whatever they get wowed by. You know, if that's real, if it's there, then to manipulate that and, you know, work with that. To work with it, yes. Because I think it probably manipulates us more than we manipulate it. Yes.
Thinking. It's just to have that awareness and respect would be something as well, and I'm sure a lot of people do.
Yes. Well, we've got a question here from Dion, I think it is, and it says, Poppy, how do you know circle makers don't do that? And I'm thinking, he's talking about what we were just talking about, basically. How do you know that some circle makers aren't doing that? I mean, some are.
I absolutely don't know.
We're doing it, obviously. But do you know the other circle makers? What do you say about other circle makers you know?
I haven't seen any evidence of it, that's all. But I've got very limited experience. Obviously, there are lots of teams that I have no knowledge of whatsoever, and fair play to them if they're doing that. I'm not saying they're not. Of course, I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah. So just to give a little bit of background in my mind, I mean, I know the teams, but I'm thinking I know more. So I've got it in my head here. But what you're talking about initially, then, when you first got involved and you met somebody who became a circle maker, he didn't sort of pick up on this, even though that you were a spiritual person. Did you kind of try to give him the idea back then? Did you give that first person that you knew that sort of idea, or is it something that you've been trying to get people onto in more recent times?
I think even then.
I think Dion was referring to respecting the land.
Oh,
so he's saying,
absolutely. Oh, totally different issue, and I wouldn't for a minute say that a circle maker wasn't respecting the land. Yes,
so Dion was saying, how do you know circle makers don't do that? And then it's respecting the land, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know,
talking more of an interaction rather than just, I mean, respect is absolutely essential, but then moving on one stage further maybe.
Sure. Okay. Crop Dolly is saying it's an amazing art and it's had the public fooled for years. Why don't you try to tell the researchers what you knew before, Poppy? Did you try to tell the researchers? Did you?
I have. I remember writing a very. I was a teacher before I was a writer. I was a head of art and English, so I hope I'm not. I mean, I might be coming across as a bit of a noodle now, but
not
I
at all.
hope that I'm, you know, not the sort of person that blasts off a snotty letter. I thought about it very hard, and I'd been at the Beckhampton group, which used to be this big righteous convenience of the head people who used to sit around in the wagon and horses in the 1990s. And I'd been at one of their groups, and this particular chap had banged on about he knew the secrets, and he wasn't going to tell anybody because they were too stupid, basically, to take them on board. So I wrote him a letter and laid out everything that I knew already, and said, why are we having this divisive thing? Can't we just pool all of our information and then we're going to start getting somewhere? And he took it on board that I was working for MI5 and wanted to have me traced and tracked, and was very hostile indeed. So that was one experience I had of trying to tell a researcher about it.
Would you like to say who that was, or should we can guess? We can guess.
We can guess.
I've got to ask. If I don't ask, they're all going to say, "Look, Matt, you're just not asking."
But he's still out there, isn't he?
He's still alive.
He's still alive. He's still alive.
He's still walking. Somebody's saying, "Do you mean Mr. Glickman?"
I actually have never met Mr. Glickman.
Ah.
It was not Mr. Glickman. I would be terrified to meet Mr. Glickman, actually. Really. I think I'd have to have Mohammed with me if I did.
Oh, yes. You'd have to have Yahweh.
Even going past his house is an experience of...
Yahweh wouldn't come tonight. He's not into the idea of this program. He says no. Yes. The Yahweh says no. So we've got some other questions. Let's just go through some of these. Spooks and spies and serial lies. Don't know quite what that means, but Somebody who says, wagon and horses, happy days. Those
Yes.
were the happy days, indeed.
Were they?
Well,
Did you enjoy them?
I heard some amazing stories about the wagon and horses.
It was hilarious.
It was like, well, we're going to probably touch on this a bit later, but Jim Schnabel's book called Round in Circles, that's absolutely fascinating. And
excellent. Is it still in print? Because it should be. It's wonderful.
you can get hold of it, but I don't know if it's still in print. You do need to read this book if you want to get an inside track on things that probably, if we had to tell them on this show, we probably wouldn't, because you wouldn't believe them. They would be too fantastic, and you'd think we were lying. But you need to read that book if you want to get something that's even more hardcore than possibly we would even be daring to do on this show. Jim Schnabel's book.
I was actually around the whole time he was in researching that and was hearing all this stuff before he actually wrote it. And it was, it's true. It's true.
Right, yeah.
I think.
I get the impression it definitely is true. I've seen a lot of that stuff going on. I mean, I applied my experiences with what was happening to us to what I read in the book, and the same sort of things seem to be going on, but with different faces. You know, new people come into the field, but the same rules still apply. So
crazy stuff.
Yeah. Somebody says Glickman. Oh, here we are. Have you ever designed formations, Poppy?
Frankly, never been asked to.
Would it? Would you like to?
From what I've seen of some of the most superb, one of the most superb designers that I could think of, from what I've seen of what goes into that, I don't think it seems a little bit too mathematical. I don't think I could translate it into something so precise and mathematical as that. And again, I'd have to get out there and integrate myself with the land before I designed anything. So I think it would be a bit too much faff, really, to have me involved.
Okay. Well, it's a funny thing because we haven't really mentioned this in the other shows, which, by the way, just in case you don't realise, Poppy hasn't managed to see the other shows, so she's not kind of aware of what we've already talked about. But there's a lack of females in crop circles, and I've always said to myself, this is a very one-sided sort of game we're involved in here. It's a bunch of blokes, and no women. Where's the representation of what women would want to see, or connect with? Where is it? And I used to think about this, and I'm not the most empathetic sort of person towards women, because I'm not attracted to that sort of thing, but sorry to call you a thing, but yes.
I know what you're saying.
This sort of I'm not that way inclined, and also I've got lots of other things going on in my life, so I don't really sort of hang around a lot of women. But I still found myself saying, why aren't there more women involved? Why is it a bunch of blokes? This is very one-sided. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm out there doing designs, shouldn't I put something in there that tries to represent women? But am I the right person to do that? Have I got the right to do that? Have I got the right? And I used to try to, just to sort of balance it up, because I thought, well, but there are a few women involved now.
There are a few women involved.
There might have been a few that I didn't know about back in the day as well. But, for a long time... They didn't
come to the fore and
they weren't talking,
counted.
Yes. They were sort of there with, boyfriends, husbands doing work, and in the background, and you kind of knew the boyfriend, husband, but didn't know the lady...
Yeah.
The lady of the White House, I suppose we should say. Jimone is asking, what about the dark side of circle making?
What is the dark side of circle making?
Oh, do we have to go there?
What is it?
We don't talk about the dark side, because then nobody will be involved in it anymore. What dark side?
Is it?
There is no dark side, is there? I don't know. Is there a dark side? What do you think? Maybe the dark side is people not telling the truth. Maybe the researchers.
That's certainly the dark side, the hidden.
Not necessarily a dark force.
No, but the hidden.
It's the agendas of people that don't tell the truth regarding crop circles. That's maybe the dark side. Have you got, you touched on it. I mean, what bad experiences have you had with researchers then, really bad ones? Have you got anything you can tell? You maybe don't have to name them, but...
I know I found it absolutely hilarious, and I've always found it hilarious being involved in, I was tolerated. I've always been barely tolerated in those circles, where the researchers have gathered. But there has been incredible hostility towards me, by being just simply by being ignored. But not once has anybody wanted to include me, even though
you wanted to be included
certainly
and chat to people, and they just didn't want to engage you.
And more than that, really did not want. It was very hostile. The only person that I ever found to be absolutely open and lovely, and somebody else might have a totally different experience of him, was Richard Andrews, who was involved at the time of that, and he was very welcoming, and he was the only person who would have considered himself to be in the inner echelons of, knowledge of crop circles, who was ever warm and welcoming to me. And it was a very very, very male-dominated environment then. Rita Gould somehow snuck in because she was claiming to be all sorts of things and had a very sort of, Anyway, she was somebody that was there.
Oh, that's okay.
Anyway, no, I always had a very, very hostile reception.
I think
even though I wasn't hostile.
That person you mentioned is talked about in Jim Schnabel's book quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's how you find people, isn't it? But I mean, I'm interested in this now. It's been brought up because it's I can see there's a lot of emotion there because these people have treated you in a bad way, and were you saying to them, hello, I'm Poppy,
Absolutely.
I don't believe that people make circles, but then expecting them to be friends with you? Or were they just not friends with you and they didn't even know anything about you?
They didn't even
know anything about you?
I was going, Rob Irving, who sort of befriended us, me and Lee at the time.
Yes.
He would make us go into the inner circle of the Beckhampton group in the tack room. He would say, no, you're coming in, basically, and he would sit us down at the table.
Right.
And he didn't see why we shouldn't be there, and because we were interested, we were going out there, we were looking, we had, we were intelligent people, we wanted to be involved, we wanted to help, we wanted to, and they just hated the fact that we were there, absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
And not in a verbal sense, but you were not encouraged to speak, you were not listened to if you spoke, you were not given time to speak, you were not given credence for being.
Was Rob known at the time as being a circle maker? He
was
obviously is now.
No, absolutely
but
not.
At the time,
he was integrated as somebody who was a photographer, who was an intelligent man, who wanted to find out what the circles were about. He was taken as completely and utterly one of them. Really, at the time, there was very little, as far as I know, suspicion, because I do know that people were talking very openly to Rob Irving at the time, and
yes,
and so. No, that he wasn't regarded as an enemy in the slightest, no.
Yeah, Crop Dolly says it sounds like a really cliquey bunch.
Oh, horrendous to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Rob
from the start
didn't always, as you say, he wasn't always known as a circle maker, and what he was doing is he was infiltrating. Now you've got to be careful with the use of the word infiltrate, because it sounds like some sort of military intelligence operation, and we get accused, as you said, you've been accused of being MI5. I've been accused of being MI5. I think everybody who says anything that actually doesn't fit with some people, the ayatollahs, the ayatollahs out there who control this subject, who don't make circles but own the subject
and make the money.
Yes, and make the money. Those people will sort of take a very dim view to a lot of other people. They just don't want anyone else, sort of taking their limelight, do they?
Absolutely
as well?
Not. There was a very small share that could be spread out between these men. And they weren't given, and they all had the money, and obviously there were women that had the money as well. They all had the money to do the flying, to do that we didn't, and
sure,
there was a definite class thing going on there as well. Yeah,
we've talked about the Francines and the Lucys and all that sort of stuff. I mean, they've got their we've mentioned many times, and Mr. Glickman, Freddie Silver, everybody. We've mentioned the whole spectrum of people and certain problems that we've had with them over the years, and so I wouldn't worry too much about, offending by using those names. But, It's a strange one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Maybe what we'll do, because we've talked about like the slight dark side, is we'll flip it again and we'll talk about some light stuff, and then we'll flip it again and then we'll talk about some dark stuff later. Because we don't want to hammer it on with this dark stuff. We want to come back to the weird stuff. That's the
Weird
best.
stuff's good.
Weird stuff's best. Yes. Somebody says Steve Alexander exclamation mark. Why exclamation mark? Steve Alexander.
Can you elaborate on that one?
Yeah, Steve Alexander's a photographer. Makes a fair sort of amount of money, but apparently spends a lot of it on his flights as well, because it costs a fortune doing the helicopter rides. I've always said I really like his photos. What has anybody got to say about Steve Alexander? Then I'm reading the next line. It says Rob on the next line down. So Dorothy is saying, so was Rob involved in making circles at the time and pretending that he was not, under the guise of photography?
I don't have any hard and fast evidence of the fact that he, towards the end of the time that I was spending with him, for sure they were out there. But at the beginning, no. No, he wasn't doing them. But I mean, he always referred to it as crop art. He always, considered that he wanted to make crop art, I think, because he thought it was very beautiful.
And this is just off the top of my head. I'm just wondering whether or not he told you about that side of him. Maybe he's like, I'm not going to tell her I'm actually a werewolf. I'll sort of like coax her into the idea of.
I would have been right up for it if he was making. He could have told me, but I wouldn't say that he would want to have done. He liked to keep things. He liked subterfuge.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to Mr. Rob in a bit because he's a very interesting character.
He's a very, very interesting man.
Yeah, he's in. If you go on YouTube and type in Circlemakers, there's our video, which is 3 hours long, featuring footage from Grant Wakefield, where he did an interview with Rob, and I think it's an absolutely classic interview with a Circlemaker. A very well known, but then as we know, we're all not very well known Circlemaker. So, Poppy. What do you think, Rob Irving? Well, we're on Rob again. Here we go. Rob. Let's talk about somebody else, but here we go. Poppy, what do you think about Rob Irving? Rob Irving would feel about you talking about him on this program, or does he know?
No, he has no idea. I haven't seen him for a long time. We did briefly make contact again a while ago. Sorry.
That's fine.
Sorry,
no.
He's so mesmerising.
Yes.
I did make contact with him a while ago.
Stop fondling my Mohammed. Sorry.
He was really pleased that we got back in touch, and then I happened to mention who I think this was the problem. I'd love him to put me right. Maybe it's just because he found me incredibly tedious after a while or something. But he seemed
might be him in the channel asking the question.
Hello.
I don't know.
He didn't ever respond to another email when I told him that I was involved with another group of circle makers.
Ah, you defected, did you? Oh, sorry.
This was sort of quite recently when I reconnected with him.
Ah, right,
I don't know, because Rob, I have ultimate respect for Rob and always have, but he is a very capricious and slippery character, and he could decide that he hates this, or he could decide that he likes it, or whatever.
You mean this show?
Me speaking about him, he might think that I've got absolutely no bloody right whatsoever. All I'm doing is trying to bring some truth into it, and I'm sorry that I've mentioned his name if he doesn't like it, but he is part of the truth. Yes,
I think Rob is a very big part of it, and I don't think you'll have a problem. You haven't said anything nasty.
No, I've got nothing nasty to say about him.
No, I think that's perfectly fine. Rob's been written about anyway in Jim Schnabel's book quite a bit, and I think he had something to do with the book called Circlemaker's Guide with Mark Pilkington. So he's known as a circle maker. So people having a little chat, it's just a normal thing to do. So
and I saw him in the newspaper.
Love him to come on the show, though. Yes, and
he went to America, didn't he, last year to make this thing for Corn?
He was
Corn,
part of that,
as in Korn.
Korn, yes.
He was in the local papers, proudly displaying himself.
Yes.
With Man from Corn saying, "I've made you a crop circle."
I didn't realise he'd gone out with John and the rest of them. I'm not exactly sure at this moment in time who exactly comprises the team called Circle Makers, because I think there's been a bit of a sort of a change of people involved. I understand that Rod Dickinson isn't anymore, but I could have sworn, am I imagining it, that he was there for the corn thing? But I was told that he wasn't involved anymore. He kind of backed out, and then he was there for the corn thing. I mean, I don't
he was
know.
on the photograph.
Yeah, there you go. See, I mean, people tell me these things. They say, like, oh, Rod's giving it up now, and then there he is. So I don't know. Bizarre. Somebody's asking here. This is a bit. You're gonna hang on with this one.
Okay.
In Poppy's opinion, who is the best circle maker at the moment? Well, can you answer that?
I can't possibly answer that question, can I, Matt?
Well, you couldn't maybe if you were going to name them, because naming them might mean exposing who they are.
There is a circle maker who has named himself that might not mind me naming.
Right.
Who?
Sure. Oh, right.
Am I allowed to say?
Yeah, are you sort of putting this together to suggest...
Form the letter T.
T, okay.
Yes, am I allowed to...
You like that, yes? Yes. You like a cup of tea?
No, am I,
How many
no,
sugars?
I don't think I should mention anybody by name, but...
Okay, yeah. Well, so you like that circle maker. There's... You haven't mentioned me yet. Right, out. Okay.
You're not actually making though, are you? Or are you? Or are you?
Or am I? Dun, dun, dun. She's got me.
You should say at the moment. Oh, look, it's
Am I making circles? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Dave, oops, nearly. He was mentioned on last week's show. He came on, yeah. And you met him earlier on. He's not here now. We haven't actually got anybody in the studio with us this week. And I can prove that by going like this, because it's just us in the studio with a secret
and some
person.
Deities.
Do you want to wave over the top? You want to wave? Oh, God. Sometimes these jokes just don't work. Very busy looking at everything you type. So, yeah, you can't really say specifically. It's a bit unfair sometimes, isn't it, to sort of say that one person's work is better than another person's work, because maybe they're all good, but they're all different.
Absolutely. I mean, there's obviously somebody that I know that is absolutely stunning.
Yes.
In his capabilities. And constantly surprises people with what he comes up with.
And that's not the person who obviously makes the cups of tea.
No.
Yes. So, yeah, somebody else.
Somebody else.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a bit of a hard question to answer that one then, possibly. But so that I think that was...
we're not here to drop anybody in it that doesn't want to be dropped in it, are we? So.
That came from a user called Wraithy, about who was the best circle maker. I'm getting pointed out to a nice question called, can you name the formations instead? Can you just say which ones you think are the best? That would be that would be naming them as man-made, though. So if you do that,
well, I think this would be okay because said person.
Ah, okay.
Well, I can't, Matt. How can I say that anything isn't man-made?
True. So everything that you say you really like,
as far as I'm concerned,
is going to be man-made. So you're not specifically saying that you know who made it.
No.
You're just saying that they're all man-made, and I really like this circle. That's cool. I like that. You can do that. Yeah, so which ones do you really like then?
I think, for me, some of the most moving ones have been the formations. I hate the word bloody formation. I wish somebody would make it better. Formation sounds like it's come down from heaven and formed. The crop art that I've found the most organic and moving in the landscape have been the ones that seem to have swallow symbols in them.
Swallows, yes, okay.
I think they're very beautiful.
Yes. I know the ones you mean. We might be able to bring up a picture of the swallow formations if we have a look, just so we can reference what we're talking about.
I'm not saying that they're the most, superbly executed circle, but they actually are very moving in the landscape. Yes,
absolutely. So, right, we've got somebody saying Spanish Dave is a good lad. That's from Wraithy. T is the best circle maker. Can we see an example? Well, that would be linking T to that specific circle. We'd have to be a bit careful about that because T may need to do that himself.
And didn't say T is the best circle maker either. So.
No, he's just a very good circle maker. So, Right, hang on a second. Swallows Eastfield. Just looking up the swallows in the Eastfield. If anybody wants to send us any links for crop circles that they want us to bring up on screen, you can do that in the live stream window.
Oh.
And then we'll go and have a look at that and bring it up on screen. If you're wanting to reference something in what you're saying question-wise, by all means do that. And yes, so here we go. Well, you have to watch your mic there. That's all right.
Sorry, I was
no
going
worry.
to burp. Sorry, excuse me.
Okay. Do you want me to fade you down?
I was patting my chest.
Yes. Yeah. Just kick me and I'll turn you off.
Okay.
Hang on, here we are. You should do a God, Jesus, Muhammad formation, Matt.
Yes! Yahweh as
Okay.
well, of course.
Yeah. Wraithy saying, call him the master artist. And then Dorothy says, it's Uncle Bob. What? Uncle Bob? Uncle Bob? Uncle Bob is out there in the fields. Uncle Bob is there with us all the time. Yes.
The daddy sauce man.
Wraithy's saying terror symbol, as in Earth Terror, Terra.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what that means?
I don't know what no.
You don't know what he's
no,
referring to?
specifically what that would be, no.
Okay, we've got a picture of the Swallows formation, which you were talking about. You really liked, so let's have a little...
There's real movement there as opposed to something that just looks like it's been plonked.
Yes. Yes, it's a very good formation, that. I flew over it many times during the summer months, and always had a lot of people in it, as usually the ones in the Eastfield do. And it sort of grew. It was one of those formations that grew. It started off as that, and then it became a lot more than that. It sort of got added to. And of course, people would say they were there at night, so there was no way that somebody could come back and add to these things. And strangely enough, I don't think there was anybody in there at night. There couldn't have been, because otherwise they would have seen them making a blinking circle. But there we go. Right, somebody says the Friends of Hecate.
Oh, yes.
Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it does. Is that Rob?
I have no idea.
No, it wouldn't be him, surely.
But it's somebody called Jimone, Jimone.
Right.
So, Jimone.
That's really funny. The Friends of Hecate were being muttered about darkly in that particular year.
What's that then? Friends of Hecate.
Well, Rob was friends with a writer called Andrew Collins, who became very well known with his psychic questing books. And he was researching this group called the Friends of Hecate, who were a black magic group supposedly comprised of doctors, lawyers, really high up people who were actually murdering people and doing some really nasty stuff in Sussex, I think it was.
Oh, right.
And I don't quite know what the connection is between that and crop circles or anything else, but Jim Schnabel and Rob and everybody was muttering darkly about their being involved, and there was a lot of stuff about people wanting to turn good energies bad, and it was all very... Nobody really knew what they were talking about, I don't think, in those days. It was grasping at anything that could possibly be relevant. But yeah, the Friends of Hecate were big sort of spooky thing in that time.
Right.
Did you know about that?
No, I can't. If it was in the book, I probably just sort of skimmed over it and don't remember. I mean, I've heard of Hecate. Hecate's supposed to be a witch.
She's a Greek goddess of the crossroads and death,
okay.
so she's obviously seen as being,
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm just, off the top of my head.
She would be a patron of witches because of that sort of aspect of,
I mean, only because of books I've read, and maybe they were fictional books or something, I don't know. But so the Friends of Hecate were this organisation that were...
They did exist, apparently, but they kept changing their name. There was a book called The Demonic Connection that was written by perfectly ordinary blokes in Sussex who were researching them and finding out they were really nasty, apparently.
Right. Well,
but very, very powerful, and who knows what happened to them, or, I mean, you wouldn't mess, basically. But why they would be involved in crop circles is a total...
Maybe they're trying to own it for some reason. I mean, we certainly know a lot of people who definitely try to own it. I mean, they've got their spin on things so that people have to come to them for information and have to get the sort of, the inside track. Maybe there's... I've often thought, why do these people not get it? Why can't they just work it out, and, you know, it's so simple to realize that people are making circles. Why have you got all these people and they're so absolutely set in their ways in telling you it isn't people making it? What's their agenda? Now, it's not a government agenda. No, I mean, it really isn't. It's not a military agenda.
No.
You know, I've seen the military interested in crop circles themselves. I've actually seen helicopters flying over, and I've heard from military pilots they like to use them as waypoints and this sort of stuff.
Right.
I've never seen any government agents, I would say, and never had anything like happen with anything like that.
What about your black figures?
But they're not. Yeah, I'm just thinking more down to earth.
More not spectral.
No, that's the paranormal. I definitely believe in the paranormal in crop circles, but I've never been able to work out why are these people so angled in the way they are. You know, what do they know I don't? What's their what is their drive to tell people, you know, you must follow me and my story of the crop circles, you know? What drives these people? And the thought has come to mind, you know, what if they're not very positive people, or maybe if they've got some sort of agenda, some sort of like hidden agenda, what, you know? And I've heard some things which I'd be a bit reticent to actually say on this program about certain key researchers involved in crop circle research.
Right.
I might say it to people privately, but it's, you know, it's just one of those things. It's like, does Matthew Williams work for MI5? No. Okay. So if I said, does blah, blah, blah do blah, 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 because I heard he did do blah, 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 people are going to go, no. And they might be right. So I'm not going to kind of speculate down those areas. But Plan 9 is saying, and we haven't had Plan 9 before, and we've got a new user called Scar. Scar? That's a weird one. Plan 9 says, Poppy, what is the most well-known circle that you have witnessed on paper before?
Oh dear.
Before it's been made in the field on the night? What's the most well-known circle when you've seen the design beforehand? Would you be allowed to say?
I have to say that I've seen tens of designs that were intended to be made before they've been made. And I couldn't possibly divulge those, I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
Right, okay.
That is not my place to do that. And obviously that leaves me open to, well, you haven't seen them then, but I have, so...
apparently
and they're stunning.
Sorry. Yes, stunning indeed. There's a bit of a conversation going on about egos and things like that, and ego driving people. Then somebody says, we've actually got 43 people in tonight, so there you go.
Hi.
You're a popular
That's
person.
nice.
Popular person. So, was Michael Green in the Friends of Hecate? That's a good question, actually. I only just spotted this from Jimone, that is. Was Michael Green in the thing? Right, yeah, okay, we'll hang on a second. Think about that. Sit on that thought. And we've got a person called Miles who's actually Skyped in. So, Miles, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Miles? Yes? Are you speaking, Mr. Miles?
Hello?
We're not getting you. Mr. Miles. And that's the Skype channel. So,
yeah, I'm.
Oh, there
I'm
you go.
speaking
There you
now.
go.
How's that?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I've muted my microphone so I could just listen. But if you want me to speak, I'll be delighted to speak.
No, you can go ahead. And I suppose you'd like to ask a question of Poppy.
Yes, I haven't actually heard the program until now, so let us continue with the broadcast. Because I'm
Absolutely.
not up to speed. I've been doing lots of other things. I just like to listen.
You go ahead and ask Poppy a question, and I'm going to pop off to the loo because this is a real TV program, and that's what the presenters do. They go off to the loo. So you ask away.
Do be swift.
What's the subject matter we're discussing? Crop circles.
You nutcase.
I haven't a clue. I've only just tuned in. Is it the Israeli fake UFO that's a load of absolute garbage? No? No?
Sorry? The Israeli...
Well, I got a
Is this a
message
recent
that there were discussions tonight about the so-called UFO material in Israel over the center of Tel Aviv somewhere, which I think is fairly doubtful stuff. But if that isn't the matter in hand,
No.
I'm not too sure. Sorry, I've only just tuned in. I have absolutely no idea who's talking or what the subject is. So maybe it's just better if you just talked about it a bit and then I could ask a question.
Well, we're just discussing crop circles generally and the truth behind them and why there's so many people who are determined to block that truth. That's been the general gist.
Well, I think it's personally, I do feel that when you get a sort of belief system and you've got people who can exploit a belief system, truth is often the last thing anybody wants to know about. I mean, I think that's the history of all organized, profitable belief systems.
Yes, quite.
So that would be my view of it. But in essence, one way of testing that would be to make sure there's none made anymore for a year, like have a fallow year.
I think that is a superb idea. And it has been discussed, apparently, by one of the greats, that there should be a strike this year, just to see what happens.
But I'm interested. Okay, I mean, I'm going to throw things in here. I mean, I know Wynne Keach very well, and I know that there's controversy about that. But I think, if I might speak for him very slightly, I mean, he did see a crop circle being made in front of him many, many years ago, and his VHS camcorder at the time didn't record anything, but was too dark, which is what's motivated him to, to go out there and try to record things. And we're getting these black shadow beings. I mean, as anybody can say anything about that, the shall we say the mud shadow beings, that kind of stuff, as they're called in Mexico after Atlantis. That's like after they came in, allegedly, when Atlantis screwed a few things up.
I mean, I know.
Have you heard of the term mud shadow?
Have you, Poppy?
No, I haven't.
Mud shadow?
No, I haven't.
Laura Knight Jadzik mentions them, but according to ancient Mexican shamanic legend, it's claimed, and I'm only saying it's claimed because I don't have the details, that when Atlantis was up and running, they were doing lots of experiments and things, and they sufficiently did enough bad things that up came these creatures through the through reality. Somehow they broke into our reality here, and they were called mud shadows. And a lot of this stuff's being seen, giant spider-type creatures, scuttler-type things, which we've seen in our transmitters and pirate radio. Matthew might be able to... I'm a big pirate radio man. I put on the biggest pirates on FM that's ever been. And in our transmitters, we would see these scuttler-type spidery things.
Right.
Or if you're a fan of Babylon 5, the shadow beings in
Could I just ask you with
Babylon
that?
5, which are seem to be very prevalent, but potentially in reality. So I'm just wondering, are these the kind of things which are being seen? Because I mean, I interviewed Matthew, and he did describe meeting these shadow humanoid beings. They're also mentioned in the Montauk Project. Any views on that?
Are you referring also to the thing that Carlos Castaneda calls the black flyers? Would that be a similar thing?
Yes, from what I gather, you only get a few
Similar
brief
thing?
seconds to see them, maybe out of the corner of your eye. Some people call them scuttlers.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Could you have you had any experiences with that, Poppy? Anything like that? Because I mean, spiritualism wise, have you ever seen anything?
No, I find that quite terrifying, because I imagine that they're sort of another dimensional being that's come through somehow, like you were saying. Sorry, I don't know the name of this caller.
It's Miles.
Sorry,
Miles
Miles.
Johnson. I think.
Otherwise
did you
known
say
as Megawatts
you've
1066
met
on
Miles?
YouTube.
No, you haven't met Miles. Okay. Sorry, I thought you might have known each other there then, but yeah, Miles is based in London. He is one of the biggest pirate radio transmitter people that the UK has had. And had his transmitters in Northern Ireland, which used to cover the whole of Northern Ireland, ripped down on many occasions.
Well, actually, no. Technically, they were about 150 meters in the foreign country known as the Irish Republic, which is why we were allowed to broadcast. But it's interesting that Energy 106 in Belfast, that the guy who actually asked me to put the whole thing on was abducted 4 times by ETs. Or maybe the government, maybe it was a MyLab, but it was interesting that we were able to run a megawatt FM pirate on the Irish border without a license for almost 10 years. So,
Right. Yes.
anyway, that's a
and
little bit of fun, but the point
that's
is
that's the background to you. But
that's the background. But the point
you
is
have
that
seen a
we
lot of
had
strange
bright
things
lights
yourself,
and
haven't you?
these-
Sorry, I'm talking over you there, but you've seen a lot of strange things yourself. So
Yes.
you have alluded to this. So would you like to tell us a little bit about what you've seen? Because I mean, I've already talked about the black shadow figures that I've seen, but I mean, would you like to tell people what you've seen?
Well, I think it's if anybody can see the reruns of Babylon 5, there's a whole shadow war in that series in the main section of it, and you've got these spider type beings, which are creatures which come into the into the reality of the fictional series called Babylon 5 once every 1,000 years. And the beings or the creatures which I've been seeing and other witnesses have been seeing are so incredibly remarkably like that, that it's beyond coincidence. So you're dealing with a spider-type creature about 10 feet wide, with large, strong, and they're spacecraft. And again, this is fiction, but the author of the Babylon 5 series seems to have got some kind of inner knowledge of things on that regard. And secondly, in that series, one of the characters gets a kind of spider creature which crawls up onto the back of his neck and infuses into him and takes control of him. And it's quite remarkable, a number of people who seem to have that feature.
Yeah. Somebody in channel is
very, very, very.
Somebody in channel is trying to say, you're just talking about fiction then, but you have claimed to have seen these things in real life at Sky Television, where you used to work as a technical director.
In the rear section of that facility, and bearing in mind that when we had these things attack us at the transmitters, a lot of pirate stations along the Irish border, all involved ET abductions, going back to Riverside 101 up in Derry, Radio Caroline in the southwest, which completely changed the whole of British, English language popular music culture. You know, that had a major effect on us. The Irish pirates were a direct result from the 1970s of UFO waves switching on awareness, and Caroline used this higher awareness slogan, loving awareness. But the point is that when my station was set up, and again, it didn't have a license. It should have been taken off the air, theoretically speaking, before it even got on the air. But we were able to broadcast for 9 years into Northern Ireland with a very highly focused, very high power antenna array, which is only taken down about 6 weeks ago. So that we had temporal and dimensional distortion effects in the transmitter. And when that happened, these scuttlers would be there, and they'd be about the size of your hand. And the point is that since my exit from that particular facility that Matthew mentioned, I've had an awful lot of confirmation.
Sky Television.
3 or 4 times.
Sorry.
And the point about that is that this is in common with the BBC. Let's make it very clear that we're not just talking about Sky, we're talking about BBC, because I've had individuals who've come to me expressly communicating that their job was to monitor mind control activity at the BBC, and all of the transmitters, any transmitters that we ever got secondhand from BBC transmitter sites, were absolutely dosed with this black energy, this non-photonic energy. That's to say, it was black. It was very, very bad news. So there seems to be the connection which we've made is that the centrally electricity generated system, going back to whenever we first started centrally generated power, had these black shadow creatures at the power stations. And we now believe or postulate that they are maybe some kind of neural cell which behaves like an artificial intelligence. And all that's happened is that in recent years with FM broadcast, microwave broadcast, cell phone broadcast, that these life forms, or whatever they are part of a neural net of some kind of shadow biosphere that seems to be communicating and directly accessing our reality by affecting our consciousness. And therefore, it's logical to see them being employed in the crop circles,
I think
or being encountered in the crop circles.
It may well be. It may well be the origin. I don't know whether it is or it isn't. Sounds a bit scary. I mean,
Scary.
what I saw, black figures, was certainly not as scary as that. I think if I'd seen something like that, I'd run a mile.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I did, Matthew, and I ran like hell. I had a chilling, ice, freezing cold chill hit me before I actually saw this thing, and it scared the hell out of me. And the only thing you can do under these circumstances is just get out of the situation. But this is something accessing primary broadcast systems, and I therefore consider it to be a major security risk.
But
to
you
us
kept
all.
on going back for more. That's what I could never understand about this situation, Miles. You were working in a place where you were seeing these strange creatures, and you kept on going back for every day, and you were seeing these things attaching, like a sci-fi movie, like The Matrix or something, attaching to people's heads and walking them around like as if they were
Well, I was
puppets.
warned that by the head of Rank Strand Lighting, which previously occupied the site. And about 15 years ago, he was aware of these things. And I say that, the person in the BBC who specifically made his way to talk to me one Sunday morning during the summer, he reported to John Burt, the Director General at the time, and he claimed that John Burt, or he made very significant implication that John Burt was not specifically all human.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people in the BBC would, he's classified like a Dalek, some alien as a joke, but that may not be just quite as big a joke as it seems. And there are other people who've suggested that people who run certain alphabet agencies in this country are also not human in that regard. So we have a situation where our broadcasting system is being controlled or accessed, or somebody's taking over our access to information and consciousness, and therefore manipulating it for nefarious intent.
So you're likening John Burke to characters from a sci-fi movie, and there's only one thing I can...
I am not doing that. I'm reporting that the source that came to me said that.
Right. Okay. So they're definitely not like you mentioned Daleks and sci-fi
the BBC
movies.
staff characterized John Burt as a Dalek in the way that as a joke in their Christmas tapes.
Do you think the BBC and John Burke have the Force?
Well, it depends if you want to use another science fiction genre's term for some kind of semi-religious thing called the Force. I don't subscribe to that, but I do feel that the pirate stations of the 1960s were a considerable threat to the organized broadcasting system here, and that way the kind of consciousness that we in the pirate stations employed, a loving awareness, a spirit of higher awareness, or we called it intelligence transfer, which was a switching on of people's higher consciousness.
And talking about switching on, I'm going to do the exact opposite, and I'm going to do a James Whale on you now. And thanks for your call. Some people are saying that it was very interesting, and some people said, but what about crop circles? So I think we should get back to crop circles. Thanks very much for your call, mate. Wicked. Okay, if I press my non-PFL button, I can go back. What did you think of that then? That gave you a chance to breathe, didn't it?
I find that frankly terrifying, because it's sort of plausible because of what other people have experienced.
Do you know anybody who's experienced things like that? Or taled about that
I
sort of
just
stuff?
remember reading the Carlos... I mean, I know there's a lot of dispute about Carlos Castaneda's Don Juan shaman figure, but the whole notion of these interdimensional black flyers that nibble away at our etheric energy has always sort of struck me as the most chilling and horrible concept, and that sounded very similar to what Miles was saying.
I mean, even like DMT and that sort of stuff is... people say that you connect with another reality and you contact other beings. And
there's so many... I mean, there must be so many layers of reality, just so many dimensions and layers of reality that we cannot possibly conceive with our limited human vision, mustn't there? I mean,
I've seen some pretty weird stuff on LSD. I've seen some really weird stuff. I've seen people like exuding something that didn't seem like it was from this dimension, and I noticed that other people were noticing it as well. And I said,
Right.
"Are you seeing that?" And they went, "Yeah." Well, I thought it was the only.
Really?
I thought I was just tripping out. And I'm like, "No, I'm seeing it. What are you seeing?" And we described what we were seeing to each other, and it was the
Not
same
good.
thing. Yeah, I saw some bloke, and he was kind of like he was like shifting in and out of a dimensionality. It looked, and he
Right.
was his eyes were rolling around in his head, and it was like, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on here?" It almost looked like it was somebody wearing a skin. You know,
Yeah.
like a skin of a
Yeah.
human, and that wasn't
Moving
what
in
was.
and out of it.
Yeah, that wasn't what was quite there. But
Then
I
we're
mean,
going into
I
Ike
had,
territory now, aren't we?
but I had taken LSD,
This is
folks,
true.
and who knows what happens? Maybe you all go to LSD land and you all see the same fantasy realities. I don't know though.
But then, if we
Mm.
don't take LSD, we still see black figures. I've seen a black figure. I've just
Yes.
remembered. You've seen black figures.
I've
so
seen black figures without LSD or anything like that, and
You have.
I've even seen figures dancing up on the. Have you broken my Muhammad?
Surely not. No.
His eyes have gone
Surely
back inside his
not.
head.
You just can't bear the thought of those black things. That's what it is.
Yeah, right, okay. I'll have him back if you don't want him. Yeah, okay. The Muhammad is going back over here. Watch now. Yeah, go on. See? And then somebody takes it off my... See, we were trained staff here that just know exactly what we're thinking. So, yes, where were we? I've seen figures up on a hill, up on Adam's grave, which were dancing around, and they shrunk, and they were doing like a Native American dance, and I went up there because there was a person that they were dancing around, and I thought that he couldn't see them, because they were dancing around him, and I was thinking, what's this guy sort of like? He's just not taking any notice of them.
Yeah.
So I ran up the hill. This was night time, but I had night
Yeah.
vision equipment. I ran up the hill, and there was nothing there. Nobody, not the original guy, not the figures that were dancing around. I mean, no drugs, no alcohol. I
No.
was just in my car watching the East Field, and I saw that. That flipped me out. I
That's
was like,
done my head in, 'cause I've
wow.
always felt really safe up there.
I
really
felt
like
amazed. Do you know what? I felt really safe up there too, because,
very-
I was watching this thing, and I thought, who's that guy? Is he signalling somebody in the East Field? He's up there walking back and forth bored, and then I saw a light, and I thought, oh, he's signalling somebody. He has a little red light. Like, he's flashing somebody
Yeah.
down in the East Field. It's a light signal thing going on. Then I saw these figures dancing around him, and I thought, oh, where did they come from? But they were his height,
right.
yes. And then I thought, well, obviously he's got a load of weird people up there who are dancing around him. He's wandering back and forth. It still wasn't getting my...
Pretty odd, isn't it?
But when I think about it now, it's like as if something was trying to get my attention, and if that wasn't a big enough kipper in the face, then they shrunk down in size. Then I realised something weird was going on. So I ran up there, and I was
Fair
like...
play to you.
Yeah, because there'd been times when I thought, don't go near it,
Yeah.
stay away, yeah? And it was like, wow, yeah, great. And I ran up there, and
Yeah.
there was nobody there. And instead of feeling frightened...
Yeah.
It was a wonderful moonlit night, and I saw the most magical view of the valley I've ever seen.
It's the best up
And do you know what? When you were talking about the landscapes earlier on, I think something wanted me to go
Just
up
go up
there.
the hill.
To just go up
Yeah,
the hill.
Yep.
I think something was saying, come,
Absolutely.
come. This is a magical spot. This is why it's here. Come and see the magic.
Yep.
And I was there. It was so silent. There was no wind. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing.
All
you
on
know.
your own.
All on my own. Who'd believe that? Unless you were there, who'd believe that?
Absolutely. That was a genuine experience. How could you not believe that?
I believe it, but how can you expect people to believe stuff like that? It's just
I suppose because
too
I've
mad.
no. To me, that's quite ordinary. It's not ordinary. I'm not
Sure.
putting in that, but it's totally believable.
Well, we've got Dorothy asking a question. There is a big question here, possibly the biggest question. Why the hell is the universe here? Let alone, let alone our solar system or the planet Earth or even life on the planet. Why the hell is the universe here?
Do you know what? I think we should be all talking about that all the time. Why aren't we? Why are we all pretending that's not relevant and going around pretending it is? I mean, that is just so... We don't know, do we? Nothing could be more fundamentally important than that. And yet we're all wasting our time piddling about, bickering and
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. I think all the time, that there's more to the universe than meets the eye. I mean, when you look at nature, and I'm not a creationist, or I'm definitely not the other way. I'm not a Darwinist either, But there's definitely something going on, I think, with the magic of how nature has made connections between animals. I think there's a lot there. I'm sure, telepathy, animals having telepathy. Rupert Sheldrake's work on the morphogenic field. Why do dogs know you're coming home? Why do they know when somebody's died? You know, I've experienced telepathy. I think the animal world and us are connected by a fabric that we don't often talk about, and I feel really bad when people don't treat the animal world with the respect that it deserves, because we're all connected.
That is a huge issue for me.
Yeah.
The issue is a bad word, really, but not bad word, but it's crucial that we get our heads around treating animals in a more respectful fashion pretty soon. Otherwise, I think we're stuffed.
Well, we're pushing the boat
race.
out very far, as they say, isn't it? We're pushing the boat out very far. What have we got here then? I'm being pointed at a question. I'm sure that Matt has said he's made circles on acid. Yes, I've said I've made circles on acid. And that was weird because, I mean, there was stuff rushing through the crop. And I know it could have been a hallucination, but that was a weird one when that was actually the I'm just thinking of the person's name, Francine Blake, Lucy Pringle. That was the when I did the Lucy Pringle circle. I took acid and I was sitting in the house and I thought, I've got to do something. You know, like you get when you're sort of quite charged. And I was like, I must sort this out. How I feel like I must do something. I've got to do something. So I went out and did the words Lucy Pringle with a copyright symbol, and I was tripping my tits off. And that's probably why it looked as wibbly wobbly as it did. I was tripping my tits off. But the thing is, I couldn't concentrate on what I was doing because there were things running around me and rushing past me, and like the crop was parting, and invisible things were running in and out of the crop, and I could feel things rushing around me, and I was like, it took every ounce of concentration I had to put out the madness that was going on around me. Now, I've taken a lot of acid in my time, I've taken a lot of things, but I've never had something as really freaky and in your face as that. And I don't think I'd taken enough acid for it to be like that. Because I've taken a shitload of acid. Yeah. This wasn't a shitload of acid. I was just slightly tripping. But when I went into that field, things started to happen.
Do you think those things are always there, and we're just zoning them out because we can't function? We can't function on those levels, can we? I mean,
could be, yeah.
Too much for daily life. So we've learned to zone right down so we don't see them.
I think Terence McKenna was right when he said that these things expand our consciousness, and they've been used by hunters to see more, to see the animal tracks more, to see where the animals are living, to kind of get inside the animal's head so that you can track it better. And you can actually place yourself, inside scenarios and you can hallucinate, but also it allows you to see things that your brain normally filters out.
Yes.
You get all this noise and whoosh and things that you wouldn't normally see because your brain says, I don't see those things. They're not there.
We couldn't. And
you just filter them out. So you're putting yourself inside your own matrix.
Yeah.
This is the world I want to see.
Yes.
And when you take acid, maybe you see things that you're not meant to see. And I think that's why people don't like certain drugs being out there on the market, because they don't want people seeing. It's like the movie They Live, Yes. We've got one that can see. We've got one that can see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, enough of me.
That's very fascinating stuff. You could go off on a whole tangent of programs.
But you are a spiritualist. I mean, we haven't gone into it enough with you. Enough of me. I mean, you're in the mood now. I can tell.
I'm in the mood.
We're in the mood for ghosties.
To a degree,
and tentacle monsters.
And not those
Come
black
on,
flying
baby,
things.
now. I'm in the mood for tentacles.
Don't, they might come.
Yeah. Yes, later on tonight, I am in the mood for tentacles, but when the show's finished, okay?
Nice ones.
Yes, nice ones. What about your spiritualism then? That's the point, is you've seen things. You were chatting to me a little bit earlier on about stuff that used to be around in the house. You never saw things in the circles, you said, but when you'd go home, there would be things there. You'd see things at home, but not in the circles.
I was just born open. I didn't ask for that.
Yes.
I didn't want it. I used to chant as a child. I just used to chant, go away, stop it, go away, stop it, go away. And that sounds like I was completely mentally ill, but I wasn't actually. I was just didn't know what to do to filter this stuff out that, everybody else in my class, as I grew up through school, secondary school, nobody could relate to what I was saying. And I wasn't in any way, shape or form ever diagnosed as anything but a normal child, you know. It's just that I learned to shut up about it because it was just not.
Sure.
Until I went to university, and then the people that I was living with started to experience it as well, and it came with me. I've actually moved 41 times since I was 19. Because people would think it was me, and I was bad, and I was bringing it in, and I couldn't. Eventually, I learned how to control it and to stop it.
So the people that you were living around would have weird experiences, and you think that it was
and
focusing on
well, as soon as I went,
point.
it stopped, and it hadn't started until I moved into their house, and so
Right.
you know, obviously, it must have been me. And then I was stupid and big mouth and say, well, it's always happened to me. I can't help it, you know. So.
And they just see it as like the Poltergeist movie or something. Yes.
Yeah, and it was like a bloody poltergeist. It was like living it completely every single day, you know.
Yes.
In that, really, and I suppose to a degree.
But not in a negative way for you, just in a negative way for others.
It was until I learned how to be in. You know, people say in your power, but it was until I learned how to be. You know, I have the right not to have this happen to me. I can close this door, and so I did.
Yeah. Well,
and opened it at will if I felt.
Good for you.
And obviously know how to stop things you don't want to come in.
Absolutely. We've got a question from, is it Dorothy or Planner? Dorothy, okay. Wow, Poppy has moved 10 times in a year. Does that somebody know hang on, what did you say? 41 times?
I worked this out the other day because I've just moved again, not because I've been haunted, but because I had to. I moved 41 times since I was 19. I'm going to be 45 in March.
So it's less than...
Between 19 and 45, I've moved 41 times.
Yeah, okay.
That's not average, is it, really?
That's giving away the age there, but that's not... No.
Truth is
out there, folks.
What's wrong with 45?
Nothing. I never said anything.
Oh, it's a bit crap, really.
But
anyway.
you know, you could see that somebody was angling for it there, and they got it in the end.
I haven't worked out per year, you know, the average of moves, but sometimes it was a lot because there was a lot of activity.
Yes, indeed, it does sound like a lot of activity. So, right, somebody sent us a link here. If you click on that, we'll have a look at what you're sending us, and. Dorothy then goes on to say, each year was being nice because she looks lovely.
Oh.
There you go. You got a fan? Bit
Paul McCartney there.
Right, okay. I don't know what this means, but...
This is coming to the USA or UK.
If Yazzie... Who the hell's Yazzie? If Yazzie was coming to the USA or UK... Is that a cyclone?
Cyclone?
Is it a cyclone? Is that what that is on the right-hand side? I think you've got the thing still set to look at Skype, so we can't check that out yet. But we'll come to that in a second. Okay, somebody called Kernow says DMT is found in all plant life and is 60 times more potent than LSD secreted from the pineal, and it's secreted from the pineal gland. Activating all dormant strands of DNA, rendering the light body, rendering the light body what, ... I don't know. But anyway, I suppose rendering the light body active, I suppose he would be saying. Have you ever dabbled in any drugs or anything like that?
Not at all.
No?
Well...
No? I mean, would you have any...
I've never touched any psychedelic whatsoever because I was already seeing far too much and I didn't really want to see any more.
Sure. Yes. So, you're not really familiar with DMT then yourself?
No, I'm afraid not.
No. I mean, I am. I took DMT a couple of times. Bit too hardcore for me, to be honest. Smoked it, held it in. The pipe that I was smoking right now turned into a snake and wrapped itself around my arm, and I went, "Oh, what the fuck's that?" And I sort of let go, and then the experience went away. So I never went to the other place.
Quick.
Yeah, I never went to the other place. And a couple of times I've had it, and it's always been things like something's jumped at me, or something's wrapped itself around my arm. And every time it's made me sort of go, ooh, I'm not prepared to let myself go into that other place. And I've stopped myself going. Bit too extreme. It's almost like somebody taking a sledgehammer to you. Where the LSD, you kind of climb slowly into it, everything gets a bit weirder, you get used to it, you go with it. DMT is like a wham sledgehammer straight in your face. You got milliseconds to think about what is just coming at you. It's a bit full on, but my experience anyway. What do we got then? It's somebody says it activates when you sleep. DMT.
Well,
Yeah.
Right. Explains a lot.
Yeah. I think you get real
Fascinating
problems if you don't have any DMT in your system. I think you get real problems if you've got too much DMT in your system.
Right.
So it's a thing that's definitely required for us to be able to think creatively in dream states, I think. But
Right.
okay.
Very interesting.
Right, have we got the graphics for it now? We got this thing. I don't know what it means, but we'll bring it up on screen in case it's a life-altering experience for somebody. Where's the button? Oh, here we go. Right, so this graphic, just for scale, if Yazzie was coming to the UK or USA. Don't understand what that means, but if anybody connects with that, feel free to chat in the channel. We've got just one more time for one more caller if they want to call in. So is anybody up for that? Send a little link in the Skype program to us, and we will try and get you on for about 5 minutes. And we're going to be a bit ruthless because we want to make sure we chat about a few things before we get off air. Now, you've mentioned about your writing books, but you're also a bit of an artist as well. You've got a website. I mean, would you like to tell people what that is, or up to you?
I haven't updated it for a while because I've been moving and I'm offline, so it's a bit behind. It's www.poppypalin.org. Now, I was stupid and chose .org. I didn't know it meant organisation. I'm not an organisation, so it's just a stupid mistake.
Right. Okay. We've got one from, let's just say, somebody beginning with GL. So we're going to call you. I think it could be the same person as we've spoken to before. So we'll see if we can get you online. Are you hearing us? Person beginning with G. Hello, hello. I think it's trying to call you, actually. Are we getting a call from them? Anyway, come in when you get this. So we will look at the. We haven't actually brought up the. Are you online now? Person beginning with Crop. It's Crop Dolly.
It is me.
Hello, Crop Dolly.
Hi. Can you hear me all right?
We can. Sounds a bit like you're close to the mic, but fine.
Yeah, I've been having sound problems tonight, big time. I'm on two machines now, so hopefully my big machine wasn't giving out any sound. So I hope. Let me just turn that down just to be sure. Okay, I'm all set. Hello, Poppy.
Hi, Crop Dolly.
I just wanted to bring up one main question, because you're so psychic and you're so spiritual, and you obviously were very open to this sort of thing. And we haven't talked a lot about the actual circles, and obviously you can't mention the ones that you've made or ones that you've probably been involved with. But I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about any of the experiences that you'd had, perhaps with other dimensions within crop circles, like the elemental kingdom, the plant kingdom, anything which would be of interest.
The only thing I can talk about...
Oops. Press the wrong button there.
Are we okay?
We will be. Carry on, sorry.
Because there's always been so many people around, either in the daytime or when something is being made, I haven't actually done a lot of tuning in that respect. However, when I was involved in the making of a circle, I was really, really uneasy about this, because it was a place in Wiltshire that isn't one of the usual crop circle places, but it was somewhere that I'd lived. And I had a really strong relationship with a particular piece of land, and the person that wanted to make the circle wanted to make it on this piece of land. Am I still being...
Yes, you're okay.
Oh, okay. And I thought, it was one of those instances where you override your best, your instincts, absolutely, because, I wanted to put the other person first because they were so keen to make this circle. And I knew it was wrong because we hadn't... I had a relationship with that piece of land, and I hadn't asked. I hadn't gone through any of the usual protocol that I would do with spirits of place to ensure that this was appropriate. And I knew it wasn't appropriate, but I was putting this person first, and he was very enthusiastic, and we went into the field, and I knew it. I hung back, and he was a he. They're usually a he. He was a he. Went herring off and started basically started doing what he could on his own. I did help, and he went on and did this, was to do the second part, and he suddenly dropped. And I thought, because he used to work so incredibly quickly when he was in the field, he dropped, and I thought he'd had a heart attack. And genuinely did, because he was going at it like a madman. And I was just feeling like, oh, well, this is, you know, this is awful, because I should have paid attention to what my instincts were saying originally, is that I'm not respecting this place. It doesn't, I know it doesn't want this to happen. So I went over to him, and he is seeing, sorry, I've got to add at this point that the person that I'm with is sober, clean, doesn't touch any form of stimulant or anything else. He's not going to have been hallucinating. He could see and hear two men coming up the field. They were out of proportionally large. They were coming for him, basically. They were coming up the field. And as he was crouching on the floor saying, they're going to get me, they're going to get me, they're going to get me. And I started to be able to see and hear what he was actually seeing, although I knew it wasn't there. I knew this was for him. I knew it was for him. And he said, I've got to run. I've got to run. And he got up and he shot off and left me behind, and I couldn't run. So I trailed behind him, and he was gone. He was long gone. And he told me that he'd seen a car pull up, that these two enormous figures got out, chased him up the field, and were about to kick his head in, basically, and they were nearly on us when he ran away. And I knew, as Matt was saying earlier, with the figures that he saw dancing on the hill, I knew that experience had been put there purely as not as a warning I mean, it was threatening to him. It was threatening, and I think it was the only way. That was his fear. That was his fear, that somebody, a thug, a farmer, a big thug, or somebody, a local, would come and beat the shit out of him for making a crop circle on their land. And so that was what he saw. That was his fear, and it was absolutely and completely real to him. He heard the car door slam. He saw the light in the car. He could hear their footsteps. He could hear what they were saying. Everything was absolutely real, and I had, it took a long time to tell him that was purely something that the beings of that place had sent to him to say, they didn't want to harm him, and no harm came to him. But he was so, he has taken on board since that day that for somebody like him, who is sensitive, who has got respect, that it is wise to relate to a place before you barge in there, because he wouldn't do that in ordinary life. He wouldn't behave in that in any other way. But he'd taken the land as something that he could just go and stomp on. And it just so happened that I had this relationship with that place, and I should have realised that it was a very powerful place. It was a hill fort. There was ancient earthworks there. It was a place that still had very profound presence of guardianship there. And that was his warning, and to this day he has had infinitely more respect. He works with people who would still go into a field and not ask permission, but I hope this, sorry, I've gone on a bit here.
No, that's fine.
That was a very, very real experience with the land there.
Does that help answer the question for you?
That's absolutely incredible. What seems to have almost happened is that he's almost manifested. He's been in some place, right, where he's almost manifested his thoughts. His thoughts have actually manifested for him.
Or the thing was there, and because he was basically not treating it with enough respect, or he didn't know what he was getting into. Perhaps something said, "Hello, I'm just going to tap you on the shoulder here."
Yeah, it was almost like it just picked the very thing that was going to scare the shit out of him, and the interplay of energy and him and his fear and everything else just kicked off. But I mean, although it sounds like a very negative experience, it was actually a really good thing, because it reminded him of, the land is alive and there are beings out there that we can't see, and you've got to walk gently, really, sometimes.
That's fascinating stuff. Crop Dolly, I'm going to offer this to anybody, so we'll keep you on the line just for a second. But what we're going to say is, somebody said, they want to keep a 10-minute limit on this. So have you got anything that you'd like to say very quickly to sort of finish off, and then we'll fade you out and give somebody else a chance, because they're saying
Absolutely.
we've only got 15 minutes. They said to the end of the show.
Sure.
So keep this one
that's
quick.
great. That was
Over to you.
fantastic.
Over to you.
Yep. Sorry. Fantastic story. I was gripped to my seat. That was brilliant. No, I just wanted to, before I finish, I just wanted to bring up another point about what we were talking about last week about these fake researchers. Before you fade me out, I had a little bit more information about these people that call themselves doctors, and whether they're able to or not. And apparently, when you receive an honorary doctorate, the only type of doctorate that you're allowed to call yourself a doctor with, if you've had an honorary doctorate, is for a doctor of theology.
That's the only one you're allowed to sort of go around saying, I am a doctor. If you've got a doctor of theology, then it's okay. But if you're a doctor of physics, honorary doctorate, you wouldn't actually use the title. It's considered, not the done thing, isn't it? You just don't use it. That's if you've actually got an honorary title, because a lot of these people say they've got honorary titles, they haven't even got them.
Absolutely. So the only way that perhaps Professor Blickman or any of the other people that you've mentioned, Lee and Good and any of the others, could call themselves doctor if they haven't got a PhD in their subject, but perhaps they were awarded an honorary doctorate for the research work that they've done, perhaps with crop circling or any other field, they still wouldn't be able to call themselves a doctor unless it was an honorary PhD in theology.
Okay, well,
Right.
that's great. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Please call in again. We would love to have you, but we're just going to see if anybody wants
Sure
to
thing.
put their
Thank
money where their
you.
mouth is and come and have a
That's
chat.
happy.
Come and have a chat now that they've said, make sure we get more people on. So it's over to anybody who wants to come and have a chat. Somebody's actually asking if there was the showstopper, because I mentioned earlier on that there was something we should mention. I can't decide if we're going to mention it. The showstopper. What is the showstopper? Well, it's something something you told me earlier on, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Hang on, let me just fade these mics out a second so you can't hear what we're saying.
You're right.
Okay, and I'll come and say to you. No, don't want to. Okay. No. Okay. All right. We'll have the showstopper. Let's take it slightly sideways with that one then. What about the genus loci? Yeah. Genus loci was something you don't mess with. We mentioned about this, but I specifically said I'd come back to it. So that is the landscape. That's what you mean by the genus loci, is it?
It's usually a particular spirit of place. It's either spirit of place in a very general sense, that the land itself has a sort of overall energy and awareness, or it can be a specific guardian, non-human guardian, or perhaps sometimes a guardian that has already... I'm very wary about saying previously lived, because time isn't a linear thing. But a human guardian that once perhaps lived in that area, that has elected to stay there and be the gatekeeper, or, just the caretaker, basically. You often find that at burial chambers, and it's always, I find it always helps to acknowledge them, even if you can't see them.
Do they speak to you?
I've been grunted at. Sometimes,
Right.
literally, out loud.
You
I've
end up having a conversation.
Yes, I
with
have,
some
but
of these.
I had a really stupid experience. I've had quite a few stupid experiences at Stonehenge, but one of them didn't. One of them I did. There was a series of barrows opposite Stonehenge that I tried to communicate with the guardian there, and it threw me in the air and dropped me on my face. So,
Right.
basically told me that we people didn't know shit about them and I should go away.
Hmm.
So it's not always fluffy bunny.
But weren't they prepared to tell you a bit more? I mean,
No,
it's
that particular one wasn't. I mean,
No.
that was really unusual. But Stonehenge is such an overused and abused and God knows what place and totally
Yeah.
misunderstood that. And I've had some blooming strange things. I've had a big black shadow figure there, and I don't particularly want to talk about Stonehenge, really.
I don't like Stonehenge myself.
Do you not?
No, I've never actually been up. I've never felt the urge to go and touch those stones. It doesn't particularly look as big as everyone goes on about.
No,
You know,
it
it's like it's a
Wee
little
wee.
teeny thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, people who go like
I
Stonehenge.
don't want to say that to it though.
Well, no, yeah, I'd be swallowed up by something. Yes, but yeah, it's just like, you know, the amount of crazy people that go there, you know, because they sort of like got to go to Stonehenge.
But why?
You know, and to me, I must be honest, I'm not that enamoured with Glastonbury myself either.
Why did I just leave Glastonbury, Matt?
I mean, you know, everyone's trying to sell you something, you know what I mean?
It's dreadful. It's like a little corridor full of people's intense desire and want and need and desperation for something magical to happen, and it all gets kind of, it's like a soup.
Yeah. So there's always some sort of angle that people are trying to sell you or get you involved in some sort of, you know, hands-on thing, you know, like a healing or a god shaman workshop. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Or the goddess even, you know.
Absolutely.
Seen some of those recently.
You've seen some of them.
Darthy is interested in coming on. We're just
Oh,
on...
look at his little, is that his little head there?
He might actually be. He's got a little logo of a Darth Vader in the thing. So I think, you know, we've used this joke already, but hey, what the hell? So we're over to Darthy. Darthy, are you there?
I find it quite interesting. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello.
I find it quite interesting that you're not really liking Stonehenge and Avebury and things like that.
No, I love Avebury. I totally connect with Avebury. Had loads of weird experiences there, but Stonehenge, no.
I'm just kind of wondering, do you not kind of connect with the fact that Stonehenge and other circles that you don't like are kind of ancient art on the landscape?
I must apologise because I took that as being
more
directed at me. Let's direct that at Poppy, because I didn't see Poppy's reaction then. So what do you think?
Okay.
Is Poppy not connecting with Stonehenge? What do you think?
I went to Stonehenge with a totally open mind. I didn't actually find it aesthetically pleasing, no, but I went there with a totally open mind and just happened to have some experiences that were quite hostile, and that's been the only thing that...
Was that due to people?
Pardon?
Due to
Was
people?
that because
No,
of
it was
people?
other things, wasn't it?
It was actually things that weren't human.
What's your take on that, Darthy? Are you pro or, you know, sort of, have you had any weird experiences at those places that weird you out?
I kind of like Cornwall's my most favourite place to go, and there's kind of quite a lot of barrows and ancient things in Cornwall.
Fugus.
I just love Cornwall, Fugus, and you know, I went to the most westerly hill in Cornwall and actually flew a kite on top of some guy's barrow and just felt great. I don't know who the guy was. It was the most westerly hill in Cornwall, and I just loved it. And I just kind of think that maybe stone circles are kind of crop circles, but they're just more permanent and left by people in history.
Yes. Temporary temples, crop circles have been often described as, and I would go with that, yeah. I don't see there's any problem with somebody of our age now building something that somebody a long time ago would have built, like Stonehenge. Why is it such a bad thing for a person today to try and interact with building something like a temple or doing something that awakens or attracts spirituality? Why are people so negative about that? That's what I can't understand. Why the Glickmans and the Francine Blakes, they're like, you know, we are the Satanists as far as they're concerned, and I think we're not. We're actually the spiritualists.
In fact, I think, you know, circle makers are probably equivalent to the ancient builders, but they're just using a medium that's probably more acceptable, really. Because if you went and tried to build a stone circle, you'd probably get laughed at a lot. Well, you'd get laughed at anyway. But
do you want to ask Poppy anything? Because I'm half answering these, and I should be just handing it over to Poppy.
Well, why do you why did you feel that you had what happened at Stonehenge that made you feel so bad about it? Really?
Can you specifically say?
Pardon, sorry.
Stonehenge.
What happened there? Or
Sorry, you're having trouble.
What happened to you at Stonehenge that made
what
you
happened
feel
to me at Stonehenge?
the specific thing that
The
happened.
first thing that happened to me at Stonehenge, I'm going to have to say this really quick, but it's a huge story. The first thing that happened to me at
We've
Stonehenge.
got time.
Okay. This is a story that I don't have any. I don't know what this means. All I know is what happened.
Okay.
The chap I was talking about earlier, Lee, he used to drive me home to London after we'd been to Wiltshire. He decided one night he was going to drive me past Stonehenge because I'd never seen it, and it was dark, full moon, thought it would be beautiful. He said, we won't be able to stop for very long because there's security guards. So I was prepared for that. What I wasn't prepared for was the fact that we drove up to a junction. I couldn't tell you where the junction was because I don't know the road. And there was an enormous ball of orange light hanging over the junction, about the size of a house. At that point, all the cars disappeared and we were on our own on the road. We kept going and the orange ball of light tracked us to Stonehenge where we stopped the car. I don't know why we stopped the car now because it was actually bloody frightening. And we decided we were going to leave the engine running and get out of the car. I got out of the car and was staring at this orange ball of light, which was doing the most incredible display over one of the fields. While I was actually looking at the orange ball of light, I had my hand on the hailstone. I was resting on the hailstone like this, just literally, you can't see, just literally with my hand behind me. I was resting on it. It was very, very cold. It was almost like my hand was going to stick to it. I was resting on the hailstone, looking at this orange ball of light over the field. Meanwhile, my partner Lee was totally mesmerised by Stonehenge and the full moon. He acknowledged the orange ball of light, but he did not want to look at it. He was looking at the moon. He said, I'm going to get my camera out of the boot of the car and take a picture of the moon. And I said, but what about this thing? You know, and he said, no, the moon. He went round to the back of the car and he suddenly screamed at me. And he said, get in the car, don't look behind you. And he was absolutely yelling at me. And normally I would have gone, what, and turned round. And I didn't. I just got away from the stone. I got in the car and he belted out of there. And as we drove off, the orange ball of light was moving again. It was tracking the car along the road. And it was just surreal. There was no people. There was no lights around from cars, there was no cars, there was no security guards, there was no nothing. There was just this orange ball of light and our car. And Lee said to me, as he was looking at the stones, a big black figure, approximately 7 foot tall, was walking towards him through the deep leaves. He kept saying it was coming at me through the deep leaves. It had no face, it was a black shape, it was just a black oblong shape of a man. It came through the fence and it was standing behind the car, and that's when he screamed at me to get in the car. We went through a barrier of fog and then the orange ball of light disappeared, and then that was pretty much the end of that experience. But what I didn't realise until we went back the following week was you can't lean on the hailstone. There is a fence. I don't know how, everybody would know that no Stonehenge there is a fence, and there's probably always been a fence there, since the fence was erected.
For a long time, yeah.
You can't lean on the hailstone. I don't know where we were. I don't know what dimension we were in, or where the ball of light came from, or where the black shadowy man came from, or what. But it all sort of met in that space and time. I've got no explanation for why that happened to us. But it wasn't the sort of thing you'd think, oh, that was really positive. It was actually pretty disturbing to think that we'd been somewhere where there was no other people, that the actual environment had changed because the fence had moved. There was nobody there. There was no sound. And why Lee saw this figure moving through deep leaves. I mean, there are no trees at Stonehenge. There was no leaves. It was all wrong. It was all. I've told that story a lot of times. It's been in several books, and nobody has ever been able to tell me what the hell was going on with that. It's one of my mysteries of my life. And so that's pretty much why I think Stonehenge is a bit...
It's evil.
Bit, you know...
It's a bit bad.
I don't know. For me, I've just had strange times there. So, and that, I'm always speaking on a personal level. I'm not going to say Stonehenge is bad. I'm not,
Okay.
your Stonehenge could be a marvellous place. Mine has just been blooming weird. So,
I've only been there a couple of times, but I've a deep fascination with anything kind of old. In that way, kind of. how it came to be, and it's quite mystical. But I can't say I've never had a great experience, but I always kind of feel when I'm somewhere like that, I do something inside me does sort of change. But I've never had a bad experience.
Good.
That's good to know.
Well, good to know.
We're getting close to the end of the show, so I've got to ask Dorothy. Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank
But
you.
are you happy with that? Would you like to add any more before we slide the slider of doom?
That's great.
That fades you out
much.
like some shadow figure that is under my power.
That's great, thanks, and a great show. Thank you very much for doing
Thank you.
Thanks for
Poppy
calling in,
and,
and thanks for supporting us. So, fade this down and put the mute button on, and then we lose the echo. So, Dean says hello.
Dean. Right.
Yes.
I know, friend of...
Yes.
He
Yes,
cannot be mentioned.
Friend of the...
Hi, Dean. Keep on tattooing.
Ah, there you go. So that you know who you are out there.
This is my T-shirt.
Right. There's a couple of interesting comments which have been made on the live stream chat area, and somebody says that it's the universal matrix, says Jimone, and then he goes on to say sliding doors. World Traveller says indeed, and Wraithy says it's only fear, Poppy. So maybe these experiences are sort of there to kind of teach you how to deal with your fears, perhaps? It's only fear? Maybe that's what you're saying?
I accept that, but I went there with a sort of spirit of excitement that I was going to see Stonehenge, so I didn't feel any fear at the time that I was going to Stonehenge. I felt, anticipation. Ooh, I'm going to Stonehenge. So I don't know, but thank you.
Yeah, okay. And, right, Poppy's website, I'll try and get this up on the screen if I can, but it's http Poppy Palin, which is spelled POPPY PALIN. So that's poppypalin.org. So we'll see if we can get it up on the screen now, and then you can log into that. Anybody got any? Sorry.
Could you show my T-shirt?
Oh yeah,
I'm very
yeah.
proud of anybody that like one of these T-shirts. They're quite welcome for nothing.
Yeah. If you bring that up, and we'll bring these T-shirts up. So hang on a second. These are Poppy's designs. So she got herself into a bit of trouble, I think, with one of these, didn't you? Somebody said, you can't have that.
You can't wear that.
It's
been done very nicely, but you can't wear it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now, that's made by hand, isn't it?
Yeah.
You actually
handcrafted with a dial-on fabric pen.
You painted that on yourself.
I did.
Yes. And then we've got the next one is... oh, no. Go back. That's it. There we are. Celebrate human creativity. There's a design on there. Any reason that design's on there?
It's got a nice swallow on it.
Yes. Yep.
Fitted nicely at the base of the spine.
Yes. So this is two sides of the same T-shirt or two different T-shirts?
Two sides of the same T-shirt.
Yes, so front and back.
That's now been given to a very dear person, so anybody that would like one, I'm very happy to make them. It just takes a bit of time. Right. And I don't charge.
Oh, there we go. So if you go on
Someone has to not charge for these things,
Well, there are some philanthropic people out there.
I know, lots of them.
Been denied many times, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere. If you bring up the next photo, what we'll do is we'll see if you want to have a little chat about this one. Do you want to have a chat about this one before we go? This can be the showstopper. Hang on then.
Oh, yes, look.
Yeah, there you go.
That is the one that we were making when my person that I was with had the experience. That's why it didn't get finished. That's why it's an oval with... He was doing the bit in the middle when he had the bad experience and dropped to the ground. And that actually is really, really rubbish.
Did you describe this as being...
There's a little track where he legged it out properly.
Ah, right. Okay.
Oh, bless it, though.
So if we were talking about this one... you
not that I've got anything to do with that at all.
Yeah. This is... Not that you... Really, okay,
no.
Fair enough. Honestly, Gov. But this was slightly oval. Yes? It didn't end up as being as circular as that you wanted it to.
As other ones have, no.
No,
it's,
okay.
Distinctly oval. There's a lot to be said for ovals, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
We've got... do you want to... If you pick up that over there,
It's quite cute, isn't it?
We can hear you then.
Actually. or a moon. Or
We have a
something.
mystery person who wants to say something.
That could be quite.
No, I'm just saying, someone on the comments there said it looks like an embryo.
Yeah,
It looks
it's
like
a
an
little
embryo.
curled-uppy thing in the middle. That was probably him.
Yep. Actually, we can get you doing this if you want to. If you want to pipe up, you can read them out. But anyway, the we've got to change pictures here. But also, you said you didn't like that picture. So of that crop circle. Hang on.
There he is.
Right, let's take it back to 100%. Is it not going in the middle? Yeah, there we go. So you said you didn't like that that circle. You thought that you didn't do a very good job. So, but I mean, that might have been somebody's sort of like real amazed by that because they're thinking,
People
well,
did
why
actually
isn't it
like
circular? Why is it so weird?
I think it did have all that kind of geometry drawn on it on the internet for a time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not happy with it, we could sort of jazz it up for you a little bit.
If you wouldn't mind, Matt,
Yeah,
that would be
should we
good.
jazz it up a little bit?
Go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
See, you can just jazz it up for you, and then let everyone will like it now.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah, we have the technology.
And the mystical green crop has formed around it as well in the yellow field.
Yeah,
Which is really good.
that's it. I mean, we have the technology. Oliver's Castle footage. Eat your heart out.
Yes.
So somebody's saying, is that near Adam's grave? That particular formation? No, it was down near Warminster, wasn't it?
It
You
was
were saying
indeed.
Warminster.
Warminster.
Did you say something with an S?
Scratchbury Hill?
Scratchbury Hill. Now you seem to know that. You seem to know that really well. I'm gonna read into that. I'm gonna go. How do you know these things so well? You know a lot about that. Why do you know so much about that? Just happen to know something about
Just
it.
a catchy name stuck in my head.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Poppy is a geographer. Oh, I see. Yes, you know your place names. Yes. So yeah. What apart from your you said you were a teacher. But I mean, do you have any formal training? What sort of what sort of background qualifications, education? Just interested, I normally like to do this at the beginning of the show, but
I have a B.Ed honours in art and education.
Okay, there you go. So, not
Which doesn't prove a great deal, really, is it?
no, it's
Bits
just
of
that
paper.
Dorothy says that you're a geographer. So now that you've got a BA in what was it again?
A B.Ed honours
In education.
in art and education.
Art and education.
Art and education.
Yes. Well, there you go. So somebody says it's still a good achievement. Yes. But you have to go around faking your doctorate, I'm afraid. And
Do I?
yes, because people won't take you seriously unless you do this.
But it's got to be theology now, we know.
If you just said you were a professor, you could come out with all these stories about Stonehenge, and they would just go, "This is just the shit. We like this shit." But you probably
I've blown it again.
you just got to be a professor to come out with this stuff. I'm sorry, it's just not allowed. So right, we should be at the end of the show now because it's 11:15. So yeah, I'd like to keep it going till 12, but some people say to me that I'm just extreme, and it's true. I'm extreme. So you've got 20 seconds to come up with a really good question to see us out, or forever hold your peace. But I'd like to thank Poppy as well, and they're all thanking you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So there's not to say that these guests won't come back as well, because I think there's more to be said. And when it's all been assimilated and you've watched yourself on the net, and yes, you've assimilated the program, because you will no doubt go and watch this and either love it or hate it. And you
can't though, because I'm not online.
Oh,
so.
well, you can have a DVD of it from me. I shall do you a DVD. And then you might want to come back and maybe fill us in with some extra details in the future. You never know.
It would be lovely.
Okay, thank you very much. So, who made the chill bolt to nail the face? There you go. That's your last question.
Oh God, I would love to know that. And the disc.
You don't know?
I don't know. I have not got that information.
Well, there you go. I'm just going to go like this. It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Damn.
But I
Mm-hmm.
heard some things.
While you were there, or
No. I just heard some stuff, and I couldn't possibly suggest, but I did hear some interesting stuff about that one. being made by aliens, of course.
Oh.
Yes. You'll just have to guess. So, thanks very much to my guest and our guest and your guest, Poppy Palin. It's been really fascinating.
It's been lovely.
Thank you for sharing your experiences with us, and it's been very candid, so thanks a lot. Thank you to everybody on Livestream's channel. Thanks to the people who Skyped in. And you're all welcome to Skype in. By the way, that we don't favour any particular person. It's just the people that bother to Skype in get on. Watch the channel in the week, because these recordings can actually be watched afterwards when they've been finished. They go onto the Livestream server, so you can watch them again. And what you need to do is tell your friends to go over there, and they can watch them 24/7. It starts from the beginning of the program, and they can watch it from the beginning to the end. So they can pick those up. They're in the box down the bottom. Apart from that, I was going to do a little prize thing. If you want to send us send us a picture of a design. Yeah, design a crop circle and send it in to us. It doesn't have to be too elaborate. It can just be something simple, or it can be extremely elaborate, and we will have a look and see what we think of the design, and we'll pick one, and the winner gets to have that design over there, which is grab those papers there. Yeah, grab them. Thanks. The winner will get to have a design that... It's not here. Why isn't it here? Why isn't it here? The crop circle design that I did last... That I did... No, it's not there. Just disappeared.
Not this.
Yes, that one. Here you go. You can... I'll give this to somebody. This design, which is signed Matt 98 and 18th to the 8th 98, is the one that the farmer shaved out. That... It was the crescent and the Star of David meeting each other in a Vesica Pisces, and didn't stay there in the field for very long. And I really would like to have a photo of this, if anybody's got a photo. I could put it on eBay, but then I'm going to give it away as a prize. I got stacks of these things. I'm going to give that to whoever wants it as a prize. If you send in a nice design to show us that you're thinking about these things, and you can actually sort of put pen to paper. So thanks very much, everybody. It's been a good show. I enjoyed it. I hope you did. And we'll catch you later on. So thank you very much, and good night. Bloody marvellous. And we've still got audio, probably. Yes, we have. So bloody marvellous. Aren't they a bunch of bastards in that live stream chat window? I can't believe what a bunch of bastards they are. Oh dear, the audio is still on. Good night.